How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me, as usual, is Leonard. And this week, we are actually going to be doing a random match review. However, we need to talk about some show notes here before we get into our random match reviews, which is, as we're recording this, the news is that CM Punk has joined WWE. He made a shocking return at Survivor Series. And that means, of course, that I lost the bet. I will say I was surprised to see him back so soon. I was, and obviously Leonard wasn't, which is why he made, agreed to the bet.
Now I think I said within 2 years, and I was thinking Royal Rumble to get him ready for WrestleMania.
Right.
But so this is a little bit quick, but at the same time, you got to strike while the iron is hot, and it must have worked for them. I heard on the radio news driving in from work today, and this is on like legit straight radio was talking about it, and said that over the weekend, WWE had their biggest social media weekend ever, something like 71 million engagements, like across the YouTube and X and Facebook and Peacock and just any which way you could interact with them.
Yeah.
That the CM Punk
they
stuff.
mentioned that on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, obviously, social media content is how you keep, your brand, your company in the news, even if something like that is very fleeting from week to week. The fact is he has returned, and that means I lost the bet, which means I had to buy a shirt that Leonard selected, and we're not going to unveil that shirt because it has not arrived. I did order it.
Okay.
And it, who knows how long it'll arrive. This is not even a Pro Wrestling Tees shirt, and whenever I order from Pro Wrestling Tees, it takes quite a while for it to arrive at my house. So we'll see how long it takes, and when it does, I will of course unveil it on the show.
And I gave him a couple choices, and I will say, and I won't ruin it, but I don't know if you noticed, but the site, it's related to a wrestling YouTuber.
Okay, I didn't know that. No.
So the shirt is something from like his stuff. Okay. So we're not going to reveal that until we get the shirt, and then I'll explain who it's from and plug the guy and all that.
I'm excited for that as well. Mm-hmm. So let's talk just briefly though about CM Punk's return. Obviously, it was in Chicago. It got I didn't think that was going to happen. I really, really didn't, because in my eyes, it undermined Randy Orton's return and the more important return of the night, which was R-Truth.
Yes. I also saw the clip at the media scrub where Triple H was like, we got to talk about the big return tonight.
R-Truth. But it did certainly undermine Randy Orton's return. And
yeah, I agree with that.
Rhea Ripley even mentioned that on the promo the next night on Raw. So I do want to talk about, and this is not sour grapes because I lost a bet. I'm the one that made the bet, and it was all in good fun. So let me just preface this by saying, while Punk was away from the business altogether, I was that guy. I didn't talk about this on our tribalism episode. I was that guy who was really looking forward to him coming back, whether it be to WWE or wherever. And I was looking forward to that. I was rooting for that, even though he was not doing well in MMA. When the idea came that he was going to go to AEW, I was very excited for that. I thought that he could bring a lot to AEW, and his run there early on had some good stuff. Even though it looked like he might have lost a step in the ring. But as time went along, and as it seemed that he was causing more problems than he was giving a benefit to that company, I really started to sour on him altogether. And then, of course, how he left the company to me just really put a bad taste in my mouth. So having said that, he's still a guy that draws news. So I was going to watch Raw last night. I don't watch Raw anymore because to me, it is largely a boring show. And anybody who watched Raw, the Monday that CM Punk was coming on knows that it wasn't a very exciting show and that they left his promo to the very, very end. And it's like, oh, here he comes. They're even advertised a live microphone in his hand. And to me, it was bland. It was insincere, and I don't like to use this term a lot with wrestling because I don't like it when other people use it. But to me, his promo was fake as shit. Um, and people will say, "Oh, well, he's not at AEW. It's he's kind of under a tighter ship now. All that kind of stuff." One guy retweeted something or tweeted something today that I looked at. I forget what the account was, but basically it showed Punk's face at the very end when he was like, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money." And he's like, the eyes always tell the truth. That guy doesn't want to be there. And I have to say, I kind of agree. To me, I just was like, wow, like this is what we get after all this time. I don't know. I thought it was very boring. But Leonard, I know I asked you to watch it, so
Yes.
you have a different.
Well, first of all, if the eyes tell the story, when he came out first and was walking down the aisle and he's high-fiving people, it was obviously a mix of awe and joy. He loved that reaction he was getting. He loved being in front of those people. And I took the promo without him saying the name Tony Khan or AEW or explaining anything that happened. I took it as him flipping the double bird, metaphorically, to Tony Khan. That this was him putting on a face. And if you read between the lines, yeah, he was being sarcastic. He was. And I think it was not what people wanted him to do. But do you think he was going to walk out there and talk crap on AEW and Tony Khan? No, he's not going to do that.
No,
you think he's going to walk out there and talk crap on Triple H and pick a fight with the new management? He's not going to do that either.
No, I didn't expect either of those things necessarily. What I expected maybe was a slight dig to AEW, at most. But maybe I expected, maybe a little bit more edginess as far as what he's there to do, or the fact that Seth Rollins was obviously very upset with his arrival. Like, at least that seemed genuine. See, you say sarcasm. I don't know if I see sarcasm. I do see your point about like flipping the double bird to Tony Khan, because if he does want to be a WWE in any way, the main motivation other than money has to be like, well, screw AEW. I'm going to go here and help WWE, just to stick
right.
just to stick it to them. That I could see. I don't know. I just viewed it as, like, and the reason I say fake and insincere is because, like, this is the same guy who for years was, not have anything positive to say about WWE or his time there. And now, and like, it wasn't too long ago that he had promos with many guys in AEW talking about how bad it was there. Like, it's not like that was 10 years ago. That was like 1-2 years ago that those promos took place. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is my home. I'm so glad to be back. What? Stop. I'm
well, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah, I maybe, but like, let's see what he has now is a very different atmosphere, I think. And to me, the whole situation feels weird. I don't want to say like, it's hard to like shit on it completely, but it just feels weird to me. Like, he is coming in as a baby face, and they have no shortage of baby faces that are above him in the pecking order. He might turn heel at some point. But it's not like they have a shortage of those either. He's older. He has lost a step. And I'm actually curious as to what they do with him, because I don't know that, like, if he thinks that they're just going to hand him the belt, I don't see that. I'd be shocked if that happened.
I don't think that's going to happen. I know the popular rumor is Seth Rollins because of the reaction that Rollins had. I think that's a good feud. I think those could be good matches. I would agree with that. And I think another thing too is that CM Punk wants to prove it was Tony Khan, not him. So he goes into WWE and he plays nice and he goes, see,
Right.
wasn't me.
That's going to be tough to prove. I mean, Tony Khan might be guilty of not being a very competent uh, owner in regards to handling talent or something to that effect, but he certainly didn't make CM Punk start fights. Like nobody could put
He
that
didn't
on.
make him start fights, but the AEW has a culture and an environment where those types of things were allowed to happen, where WWE, I believe, does not.
Well, I'll have to agree to disagree on that one. I mean, plenty of stuff has happened backstage at WWE over the years. Now, maybe new regime, maybe not as much. I'll concede that under Triple H, maybe it doesn't happen as much. But I stand by what I said in previous shows that I genuinely think CM Punk has issues, and to me, it's only a matter of time before something happens that he doesn't like. It's
Would
happened.
you like to make a second bet on how long he lasts?
I don't even know what number I'd throw out there at this point. I mean, honestly, and this is for truth, regardless of how long I think he's going to be there, I think the more likely scenario is he gets injured really fast.
Okay.
That I if he goes longer than a year without getting injured, I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised. I don't know if I'm willing to make a bet to that effect.
All right.
But do you think that he's going to be there for 5-10 years?
No, not at all. He's there at least through WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He might be there through SummerSlam. And like you, if he's still around in a year's time, then that would be the point where we would need to look at what's happening, what's going on, and make a new prediction. Again, injury could be a thing. If he gets injured, then that could be a longer time in, because if he's out for 3 months, well, then he might come back after that and stay longer because of that, what have you. I don't see it being probably more than so WrestleMania 50. It's 2 years off, right?
Right.
And I figured that's all hands on deck. That's everybody we can get.
Right.
So I would say maybe WrestleMania 50 is your best case scenario target.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I just don't know what they're going to do with him, other than the easy money is the Seth Rollins feud. If Seth Rollins even agrees to do it, which I'm sure cooler heads will prevail, and maybe they'll get a feud out of that. But other than that, I mean, if they use him as a special attraction, I guess I can see that. But again, against who? I don't know. I just to me, the whole situation just feels weird, and it doesn't feel like, other than in Chicago, it doesn't feel like it is going to have like the impact that it should.
Well, Raw was in Nashville.
Yeah. Oh no, I know that. Yes, you're right. I just mean that you can't tell me that after everything that's happened that the view of him hasn't soured overall.
Well, and again, this is something you don't admit, is that AEW fans and WWE fans are not the same pocket of people.
No, I agree. I
So,
agree.
I think okay. Well, I thought you were more of wrestling fans or wrestling fans.
Well, there's that pocket as well.
And there is that pocket, yes. But I think the majority of AEW fans and WWE fans are different people. More the casuals are with WWE. So I don't think he's necessarily have soured with that contingent. And at the same time, because of all the social media focus, they understand what a big deal this is. So they're still getting wrapped up in the hype. So I think everything that happened in AEW, to the majority of your WWE fans, they honestly don't know, or they don't care.
Right. Right. Well, that's certainly possible. I hope that things work out to a certain degree, but I also you tell me if you agree or disagree. I don't think it's fair to blame everything that happened on Tony Khan. Like,
No,
I mean,
no, 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 no.
because that seems to be the line of thinking. Even though they fired him for cause,
Yes.
like it's not like it was a gray area or blurry. Like
No.
he got fired because of something he did. And I understand what you're talking about with the culture. I get it. I just think for at some
There's
point,
other people involved. And again, despite the culture, you still had Jack Perry doing what Jack Perry did. You still had the Young Bucks and Omega doing what they did before. So, I mean, no one is purely innocent in all of this. I agree with that. I just think Tony Khan, as being the head of the promotion, is the one who's getting all the guff for it. And as you said yourself, I don't think he's good at all at managing talent. What he needs to probably do is to get an enforcer.
right?
Maybe that's Arn Anderson. Maybe you just tell Arn, who has experience as a road agent. Maybe you make him your heavy.
His contract ran out. He's
It's
gone.
obvious he's going to do. Oh, is Arn gone?
Yeah, his contract ran out, and he didn't either they didn't want him to resign, or he didn't want to resign himself. I'm not sure which, off the top of my head. I do know he's not.
Okay. See, again, I'm not watching to know, but again, I think he probably needs some sort of a policeman backstage because he's
Right.
not going to do it himself. But again, no, I don't fault him entirely, and I do put blame on Punk. I just think that the culture in the two places being different, that you're going to see there's a less likely chance of a repeat in WWE of what happened in AEW.
Right. And that being the case, I wonder how that changes CM Punk as a character, because
Mhm.
part of the culture in AEW, good or bad, allowed him to kind of do stuff the way he wanted to do it in promo wise. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how his character has changed now that the management is different in WWE. So, anywho, let's shift gears to our random match reviews. And that would be Randy Savage versus Paul Orndorff. And we're going to be covering two matches, actually. And this stemmed from you and I talking about it previously. I forget where it got brought up. But
It was we did a rebook of Halloween Havoc 1995, and I booked Savage versus Orndorff,
right.
and we talked about had that happen. So I took a look, and on YouTube there are two matches. So a little bit different tonight. We're going to compare and contrast these two bouts. The first, chronologically, was for the Intercontinental title, June 28, 1986. It was the main event of a house show at the Philadelphia Spectrum, and I believe the video is from the Spectrum's internal network. A lot of those Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden, especially back in the day, they had their own kind of local channels.
And you know what? Thank goodness
Yeah.
that those existed, because
Yes.
there's so many gems that we have that we would not have had unless that footage was going.
So this match, so the video is about 15 minutes long. The match starts at 5:15. The commentators are Gorilla Monsoon and Dick Graham. And then the other match is about 10 years later. It's it's the main event of WCW Worldwide from September 2nd of 1995. The commentary is Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan, with Nick Patrick as the referee. The whole video here is about 11 minutes, 22 seconds, and the match starts about 2:30. Both are on YouTube. And watching both, and also let me mention first, the heel face dynamics are switched. In the first match, Savage is the heel, Orndorff is the face, Orndorff is the heel, Savage the face in the second match. And I was kind of struck about how the layout of the match was the same. You kind of start with brawling and you go outside the ring and you come back in and there's stalling and there's a couple high spot moments and then the ending kind of comes out of nowhere. So the structure of both of these matches are similar. And to me, the big difference is the energy of the first match, the pacing of the first match. Again, they're about 10 years younger. So I like the first match a lot better just because I think the energy and the pacing was there. And I think there was a big difference between their mindsets at the time of, oh, we're main eventing worldwide versus, oh, we're main eventing this house show in Philly and we want to put on a good production for the people there. So those are just my initial impressions of comparing the two.
Wow, so that it makes this going to make this episode a lot more interesting because I agree with you to a point when it comes to the energy of the first match. When eventually it got into the ring, there was a lot of energy. WWE, now every company does this to a certain degree. The heels do that, like fleeing the ring stuff, and but I feel like WWE, especially in the '80s, the heels did that so much, like all the time. And in that first match, to me, it got to that excessive point where like Savage just kept leaving the ring and kept running around, and like it was like 5 minutes elapsed or whatever it was before they actually got into the ring and hooked up. And by that point, I was just a little bit disappointed. Like I was like, my God, like we're wasting so much time. Like we get it. He runs around and and like other matches, they run around a couple times, they get back into the ring so that the heel can hit on the face and away they go. It's not supposed to take 5-6 minutes. In this case, it did. I agree. Once it got going, it was very good. I despite the finish, it did have a lot of energy, but I actually preferred the second match because it was straightforward. Obviously, Orndorff was a little bit older, as was Savage for that matter. But it was a more clean cut match, and there was more of them doing stuff in the ring rather than the shenanigans outside the ring or the crap with Elizabeth and gosh, who was the I forget the lady that Paul Orndorff had at the beginning of the match. I even made
so I did mention, but at the beginning of this video there are two promos, and I took the notes on that. So the first one is Cal Rudman interviewing Orndorff, and he has Miss America Suzette Charles with him, who was from Philadelphia.
Right, and yeah, so there was a little bit too much, I don't know, horseplay, gaga before the match got started in that first one. But both guys were much more in their prime then, and I would have loved to have seen it go on a little bit longer. It was interesting to me to see Orndorff as the face, which is certainly not his natural, way of being.
Yeah. Even as a face, he was still a heel. Like he still acted very much stuck on himself, even when there was that period between the end, like right after WrestleMania 1 through after WrestleMania 2. It was the summer after WrestleMania 2 when he turned on Hogan.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does not come across. There's some guys that are naturally a heel and some guys that are naturally a face. Some guys can do both. But yeah, Orndorff was always much better as a heel.
And you know what? He looks like, and I think Hogan mentioned it in his documentary, as far as like that Orndorff played football and all this stuff. Like Orndorff looks like one of those cocky jocks.
Yeah.
That you went to school with. Like, and like, it's just, so yeah, he naturally kind of comes off that way. And, of course, in the later match, the roles were reversed. He was the heel and Savage was the face. I mean, that match from a technical standpoint maybe didn't have as much energy, but I will say I thought it was more clean cut in that way. I certainly liked the commentary a little bit better, despite the fact that I love Gorilla Monsoon. He worked with so many different people on these weird shows. Like, they kind of gave him whoever was around, I feel like.
And I remember I saw this once. Heenan, they asked him this when he was in WCW. His favorite person to work with was Mike Tenay. Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which I probably would have as well. I was just looking at some of my notes. Yeah, that second match, I would say I was disappointed in both.
Yeah.
I did like the first one a little bit better. But the second one, I was still surprised about how athletic Savage was because he was still coming off the top. and doing those types of things. And Orndorff, there's a few shots where you can really tell he had, I believe it was his right arm, he had atrophy in his right arm because of nerve damage. And you
Yeah,
can really tell how much smaller his right arm is than the left in some of the shots in that match.
it would become more noticeable when he got his hair cut shorter.
Mhm.
But you could tell here. But yeah, unfortunately, just one of those things. It would get worse visibly. It's interesting that these two matches happened at all, because these guys were. I feel like a lot of times they were heels, or
It was a small window, I think, where these matches could have happened, where one was heel and one was face. Now you can have face or heel matches, but they didn't really do a lot of that during that time period. And when Savage was in WCW, at the same time as Orndorff was, they were on different levels of the card.
right.
Orndorff was wrestling lower on the card and was doing a lot of tag work, and as opposed to Savage was higher on the card.
Right.
And I don't know. I didn't think to look this up. I wondered what kind of relationship the two had because they were around each other so much. Did they like each other? Did they talk behind the scenes? What was that relationship like?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't even know if it may not have even been mentioned in a documentary, but Savage unfortunately left us, too soon, and we didn't get to hear his thoughts about some of the people that he worked with. We know some of the obvious ones, but
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been interesting to know more about.
If Savage was alive today, he would have a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, one would think he would have to, right? Or
Yeah. Someone would get their, hopefully not Colin Thompson, but someone would get their hooks into him.
hopefully not Conrad Thompson, and hopefully, and if he did have a podcast, we might finally know the answer to that eternal question that all wrestling fans have rumored about over the years, which will forever stay a rumor, I guess. But in any event, if you have seen either of these matches, let us know what you thought about it, and let us know what you think about CM Punk's arrival in WWE. Are you excited or are you not? And we have other shows available as well. Segment Surgery, What's That Card, Stupid Questions, and we are also available wherever you listen to podcasts. So for Leonard, my name is Chad. We will see you